Robert back here. I've been out here in my shop working on lantern vices this morning. And man, is it cool here in Kentucky again last night. Just when I thought it was going to try to warm up, man, it's like winter time again. But had to fix me a cup of coffee, warm myself back up. So I'm going to show you how I'm trying to cut cost on my lantern vise just by a little bit without sacrificing quality. If y'all want to stick around, check it out. Check out that little 502 I picked up. Just picked this up a couple of days ago. Guy said it'd been sitting in his garage for 10 years. Hadn't been used in 10 years, and it was full of fuel. He said I had to pour the old fuel out of it, flush it out, put new fuel in it, and brought it home and oiled the pump leather. Didn't even take the fuel cap off of it, oiled the pump leather and pumped it up, fired right up. First cup of coffee on it right there. Okay, this is the original design on my vise. Y'all can see it's messy, it's dirty. I mean, I've used it to death. This is actually the second one I built with this design. I gifted my first one to one of my buddies. And let's get these shims out of the way. Get it locked down. Alright. You see it slides back and forth. It's got the Chicago bolts in here that just keeps the top piece from lifting off. All it does is holds it in place and still allows it to slide. And it works really well. But I've got these all threads run all the way through it on each side. And the price of materials these days are getting ridiculous. I mean, everything is skyrocketed. You go to the hardware store and buy anything, lumber or anything. So these Chicago bolts here, they're high. It's about $2.50 a set, I think it was, for those back in the day when I bought them. And so it's kind of expensive by the time you add all this up. The little T-posts I have back here to put the all thread in, they're over $1 a piece now. And so my newest design that the last several I've sold, I mean, they work really well. I've cut costs a little bit. I'm trying to cut a little bit more. And like for this section right here, instead of running the all thread all the way through it, which is extremely hard for me to do, because I don't have the proper equipment to drill through a piece of wood all the way that width. So I'm drilling through this half of it just like I always did. But on the new design, I'm drilling a hole right here and here, and I've only got to go through that far. Doing away with I'm doing away with it, and that way I use half as much all thread. The all thread will only go through to this hole. And I've been buying what they call a cross toggle that sits down on this hole, and it's threaded a 1/4 inch 20 thread, same as my all thread. And I thread the all thread right into that. But once again, they're $1.25 a piece. Well, I figured out how to make them myself. It's real simple, and gets the job done. So I'll walk through the process of how I'm doing that. It takes a little time, but it don't cost me nothing. I'm doing it out of scrap, and I've already got the tools. So like I said, it's not costing me nothing but time, which got plenty of time. I mean, we got the rest of our lives, you know. Okay, another small change I done. This was to help with shipping. This vise is, it was almost 12 inches wide, and it wouldn't fit in a medium flat rate shipping box, because if I go across the Mississippi, shipping is unreal, and so it's cheaper on me to use a flat rate box. And this vise would only fit in the large flat rate, which was crazy itself. So I cut this one down to 10.5 inches, and still gives me plenty of material. I mean, you don't need all that extra. I mean, I've sold several like this, and so far as I know, nobody's had any trouble out of them. But 10.5 inches will fit in the medium flat rate box and saves me quite a bit. Okay, I bought a bunch of bolts, nuts, and lag bolts at a estate sale or something years ago, and I mean, my boys using nuts and bolts or something around here. But in the bunch was 10 or 12 of these huge lag bolts that I'd probably never use for nothing. I didn't want to throw them away. So this is what I'm using to make my toggles out of. You can see I got them marked there. I've already, I just filed a flat place on the one side there. Took my center punch and punched a couple of holes, indentions, just to get my drill bit to start in there. I mean, because you try drilling on a round piece of steel, your drill bit's just going to wobble off one side or the other. So just file you a flat place and punch your indention in there, and that'll give you something your drill bit to grab on, and you can drill straight down instead of veering off from one side. So let's go over the drill press and show you how I'm doing that. Okay, I'm using a 13/16 drill bit to tap a 1/4 20 thread. I've got the lag bolt locked into my vise, and I have a small piece of wood under there so that I don't drill into my vise. By the way, always use a good cutting oil. Put a little bit on there, and I will drill in till my drill bit starts to smoke, and then I will stop, add more oil. It'll take several attempts to get through there, but I mean, that saves the drill bit. If you keep going with that drill bit hot, you'll run a drill bit quick. Okay, you can buy a tool, which I already have one. It's the handle that you can clamp these taps into and turn them, but they're not comfortable, and they don't fit your hand good, and it just don't work near as well as this. This is a trick I learned years ago when I worked in concrete business. We tapped forms. That's a 7/16 nut. Just set it on top of that tap, turn it long ways in your vise, bench vise, just crank it down, and that will press right into that 7/16 nut, and you can use a ratchet and socket. It makes it a lot easier for tapping. I mean, that's the easiest way to do it. I mean, I'll do this every time before I'll use one of the hand tools that's made for it. Okay, I will generally spray some parts cleaner, carburetor cleaner, any kind of thing, compressed air. Just shoot through there to blow any shavings out. You should be able to just take your 1/4 20 thread right in there. It's that simple. And the only thing left to do is I'll take my cut off saw, whatever saw you got, a hacksaw if you want to use a hacksaw, sawzall, whatever. I'll cut it off there at the head of that bolt, there on the center line, and I'll cut right here, start at that bevel, and I'll have my 2 toggles. And that's how I am cutting costs without sacrificing any quality. Make the parts myself, change the design a little bit. I mean, you don't need all that all thread going through there. It takes too long to drill. It's hard to drill, just drill it straight, and it's not needed. I mean, as long as it's locked in there somewhere. So I'll lock it into the toggle, and she's good to go. So I'm not going to go through cutting that. Threads right in there like that, and that gives you a little bit of play because that toggle will roll. And if your hole in your other border is not drilled perfectly straight, or if it's not perfectly lined up with this one, I drill my holes just a little bit oversized so they get a little bit of play, and that will allow the vise to slide in and out freely. Okay, there's the finished product. Not perfect, but hey, they'll work. There's enough for 2 more vices there. It didn't cost me a penny. Like I said, those came in a box of junk. Just didn't want to throw them away. Bought something at a estate sale and they were just in the bottom of the box. Bunch of lag bolts. I just bought the bundle, and so they've paid for themselves. Y'all know the routine. Like, share, subscribe. God bless.